Good morning and welcome to Tuesday Talks with the Chamber of Commerce. We're going to start with some housekeeping, but we've got some fantastic panelists with us this morning to talk about workforce development. Chamber of Commerce initiated the series of topical discussions, Tuesday Talks, a couple months ago. Today's session, as I noted, is on workforce needs and workforce development and some of the issues and challenges facing local businesses. We're using Zoom webinar platform for this presentation, so only our panelists will appear on camera. We ask that you submit any questions through the Q&A function on your screen. Today's webinar is being sponsored by The Observer. TheObserverToday.com is the leading source for news and information in the Dunkirk area, and the Post-Journal, Southwestern New York's leading news and information company for more than 190 years. Now, the Chamber has a busy summer coming up, and a lot of partner organizations have a lot of exciting things going on. So I'm going to run through the list of activities. It's great to see things opening up and events and programming that we're traditionally used to having coming to life. So lots of opportunities across the county. Westfield Barcelona Community Chamber of Commerce is again hosting their very successful First Fridays. That's the first Friday of each month throughout the summer. The event features live entertainment, a street fair, kids games, food vendors, and more from 5 to 8 p.m. And then Thursday, July 15th, is the Chamber of Commerce annual congressional luncheon, Congressman Tom Reed. This will be our first hybrid event, offering an opportunity for guests to be in person for lunch at the Chautauqua Harbor Hotel in Celeron, or to participate online. Congressman Tom Reed, of course, will be our guest to answer questions for the audience. So please register online in advance at chautauquachamber.org. The Mayville Chautauqua Community Chamber of Commerce is hosting a weekly farmers and artisans market at the Village Park each Thursday from 11 to 5 p.m. With live music at lunchtime. And the Mayville Chautauqua Chamber will also be bringing back their live entertainment in the park at the gazebo. This will be each Thursday evening from 6:30 to 8:30, beginning July 8th. So a lot of programming going on, and a few, specific Jamestown updates. There's some great Saturday programming occurring, including the Jamestown Public Market, which is programmed by St. Luke's Church. Riverside Saturdays at Comedy Center Park, put together by the National Comedy Center. I'd also like to highlight that coming soon, in partnership with the Chautauqua County Visitors Bureau and the Gebbe Foundation, the Chamber location here at 300 North Main will be transformed into a visitor center. Continue to be the Chamber of Commerce offices, but it's also going to be a visitor center co-managed with the Chautauqua County Visitors Bureau. And then finally, in partnership with several organizations, the Chamber in Jamestown is working on a Shop Local CHQ pop-up retail development location. So if there's any businesses out there, if you know of any businesses who want to have some temporary space in downtown Jamestown, maybe during a shoulder season or during some of the major events, contact us and we'll get you connected with that initiative. Now on to our esteemed group of panelists this morning. I'd like to welcome Katie Geis, the Executive Director of the Chautauqua Workforce Investment Board, Melinda Mack, the Executive Director of the New York Association of Training and Workforce Professionals, Dale Gear, President of Producto Corporation, and Jim Parker, CEO of Digitel Incorporated. So I'm going to start the discussion, pose some questions to our panelists and get the discussion going. And again, if you have any questions, please use that Q&A function and we'll capture them as we get going. So just to start this off, let's kind of try to talk about maybe the current state of workforce and workforce development, workforce availability. Now I'm going to throw this over to Katie and Melinda, maybe just to talk about where we are in terms of unemployment rate, available workforce needs.
Yep, thank you, Todd, and good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you today. So the current unemployment rate, I'm going to jump right in with numbers. So current unemployment rate in our county is 6.4%, and that's the April 2021 number. That's the most recent data that we have. May's hasn't come out yet. March of 2021 was at 7.3%, so that unemployment rate is coming down. To give you perspective, as we know, last year was unprecedented in so many ways, but a comparative number to a year ago, April of 2020, it was at its all-time high, which was 17.9% in our county. I don't believe, to my knowledge, that high of an unemployment number has ever been seen in our county, at least certainly in my tenure, which is well over 15 years. So that's the current unemployment rate. As far as job openings, so current job openings, I actually was able to, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to have this number for you, Todd, and for the audience, but I was able to get it as of late yesterday. Currently in Chautauqua County, we have active open job orders for 2,085 jobs, so just over 2,000 jobs. In all of Western New York, in the entire region, there's about 12,147 open jobs. So in our region includes Cattaraugus, Allegheny, Chautauqua, of course, Erie County, and Niagara. So that's including the city of Buffalo and the city of Niagara Falls, just to give you some perspective. As far as available workforce, that's a much harder number to give you, and it's also much more difficult to articulate in a definition type of a way. There are still a number of people who are collecting unemployment insurance through the system. Those people, though, we're starting to see more and more of them coming into the Chautauqua Works offices. And just to dispel a myth, the Chautauqua Works offices, we're all about reemployment. We are not an unemployment insurance office. In fact, we don't even have access locally to the unemployment insurance system. We aren't trained on it. All of the unemployment insurance claims are processed and handled at a central location in Albany. And the only way to access that center, if you will, so the unemployment insurance system, is online or through a claims center or call number. And as we know from the pandemic, that was extremely difficult when we had that 17.9% unemployment rate, because the system just was not set up to handle that kind of volume. So we are starting to see people coming back into the offices, starting to really look at work and start to utilize our services for the purpose that they're there for, which is all about reemployment. We're hearing from the job seekers that, many of them are anxious to get back to work, but also many of them are still very nervous. They're still afraid of, how safe is it to go back to work? What about the safety of not only myself, but my family? And so staff are working really hard to help them be equipped with the questions to ask a potential employer, a potential business that's hiring, about what have they done to make their workplace the safest and the healthiest that they possibly can. How have they invested in their workplace to make sure that, to set this, job seeker's mind at ease, that this is going to be, a great place for me to work as far as health and safety is concerned. And so we're starting to see people actively looking for work again, and starting especially with the vaccines taking effect, et cetera, it's starting to become a far more active place with the initiatives that we are focused on, which is all about reemployment. We've also seen a number of people take advantage of in-person training opportunities as well as online training opportunities. We have close to 100 individuals who have taken advantage locally of a new online training platform called Coursera, which is helping individuals really improve their computer skills. So whether it's an Excel workshop or a Microsoft Word workshop, And so, we've seen about 100 people take advantage of that locally, again, trying to make themselves far more marketable and far more equipped with the skills to fill a lot of the open jobs that we have.
Katie,
So I don't have a
Coursera,
number for you, but. Mhm.
Coursera, is that an initiative that the state launched? Correct?
Yes, it is. Yep, that's a New York State Department of Labor initiative that the local areas partnered on. So it was up to the local areas to initiate the marketing at a local level and also encourage local citizens to take advantage of it.
Great, thanks. Melinda, do you have anything to add?
I do. In fact, I was just going to plop the Coursera link into the chat box. So if anyone was interested, they could go to the link and check it out. So a couple of just things to add to what Katie said. Of course, Katie you guys are so lucky to have Katie in Chautauqua County because she is not only on top of the ball, but she's one of the more innovative folks in the workforce sector. So you guys are really lucky to have Katie. But I run the state's workforce association. So I look at things from the statewide perspective, but also nationally and sort of work on the public policy making work to make your lives easier and hopefully get more people back to work. One other stat I wanted to add is I was looking on the Bureau of Labor Statistics this morning, and as Katie mentioned, there's around 6,000 or 6,200 jobs open in Chautauqua. In terms of the number of people who are unemployed, like the number of people, it's around 3,500. So even if you got every single person who is unemployed back to work, you would still have a labor shortage in the region. And that was the case before COVID hit, right? People were having trouble hiring before. And unfortunately or fortunately, a lot of that has just shifted to different sectors or industries. Or employees are at this point walking and making choices with their feet. Like they're recognizing they can do better at other companies in terms of wages and benefits. Or they can try something that they've always wanted to try. I mean, I don't know if you've ever worked in hospitality or worked in a restaurant industry. It is not an easy job, and the hours aren't great, especially if you're in a community like near the lake. You basically are spending your entire summer working. Some folks are recognizing this maybe not the type of occupation they want to spend their time or their energy working in. It doesn't mean we don't need people to do those jobs. It just means that people have choices and people are taking those choices. The last thing that I will say is we're seeing this nationally. This is not a Western New York issue. This is not a New York State issue. I was just on the phone yesterday with Vegas. You can imagine Las Vegas in particular in hospitality and tourism is having a bear of a time when 70% of their sector sort of growth is in that industry. They're really struggling to find workers. And so again, it's not just one thing, it's many things that I think are colliding. And the last thing I'll add is right before we hopped on, Jim and others were saying, COVID in many ways has changed everything. It's changed everyone's behavior, especially when it comes to the use of technology, especially when it comes to the way that people are interacting with each other, interacting with work. And so that means you have to be flexible. And as an employer, if you're not flexible, you're going to be the one that's ultimately left behind. And that part is a bummer, but it's just the truth. It's the truth of the matter.
Just trying to get my head a little bit around the numbers. Thank you, Melinda. Thank you, Katie. So, Katie, you noted there's a 2,085 job openings in Chautauqua County, 12,147 jobs in the 5-county Western New York region. And then, Melinda, the 3,500 unemployed, what counties does that include? Oh, you're muted.
That's just in Chautauqua. So it's 3,255. I just looked for April of 2021. That's sort of the number of people who are considered to be unemployed based on the average data or the data that they put out.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for kind of that current state update. Now, in terms of, and you touched upon a couple, state resources available. Are there any other resources employers should be thinking about? Katie, are there some things specific to the web that we should really make sure employers are taking advantage of at the state level?
Absolutely. So, locally, we receive federal dollars that come from the federal government, but then come through the state government and then to the local areas. And one of the things that we utilize those funds for, and the majority of our funds for, is for training opportunities. And there's two different ways that someone can access training. It can be kind of your more classic classroom training or an online training, but then there's also something that's called an on-the-job training. And an on-the-job training is where a new hire at a business, and the business develops along with one of our staff a training plan. So let's say that you need to hire someone to use a specific machine at Dale's place. Dale is actually, he's utilized this program. And there's a specific skill set that this individual needs to be trained to be able to run that machine. And so you develop a training plan, and the company can be reimbursed up to $5,000, 50% of the wages during this training period. I'm not going to give you any more details on that, but suffice it to say, if you call, you can call me directly and I'll make sure that Todd can send out to everybody that attended our contact information, and I will get you connected to a staff person who can help work you through the process. But that's a great program to help you with your new hires. And again, if you also are experiencing being unable to hire for certain positions because people don't have the degrees that they need, let us know, because we will try to work with job seekers to make them aware that if you get this certification, you'll be eligible and qualified for these jobs that we know companies have available through that classroom training funding opportunity. The most recent state level, so those are the local. State level funding is, there is a New York State COVID-19 Pandemic Small Business Recovery Grant Program, and again, I'll send a link to Todd to share out to the attendees. But that's just another program that recently came out that is, any business that can show that they have had a decrease in their earnings can access funding to help them with their business costs. Finally, the other program that I would highly encourage businesses to consider participating in is our summer youth program. So we run a program where we put to work 14 to 20-year-olds for 6 weeks in the summer. So if you're looking to, try someone out, a young person who maybe has absolutely no experience, you get to try them for 6 weeks. You don't have to pay any of their wages. They actually go on my payroll, and you don't have to hire them at the end, but you certainly can. And also, it's your way as a business of truly investing in the development of our local workforce, because you're really developing the future workforce. These are young people who typically have absolutely no experience, but they do want to work. They've completed the application process, they've completed an orientation, and so they've actually shown some initiative and that they really do want to work and learn some new basic work readiness skills.
Great. Thank you, Katie.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to move to Dale and Jim. We've got two businesses, and some of the good stories that have come through over the past years. I think these are two of them, Digital and Producto, in terms of how you responded, and we're innovative, in the midst of challenging times, but it's been an opportunity where you've actually seen your business grow, and as part of your growth, you've had the challenge and the opportunity to try to find new workers. So two companies, two very different types of industries, with the same challenge. So I'd like to move to Dale and Jim for a little bit and get a sense from you of how your company has responded to this. Again, the challenges as well as the opportunities in terms of workforce recruitment. Jim, let's kick it off with you, and maybe if you could just give us a little bit of background on Digital first, so the listeners know a little bit more about your business. That'd be great.
Yeah, thanks, Todd, and nice to be here. And this is great that you're doing this, and it certainly helps the local businesses. And before I tell you a little bit about my story, I also want to say to businesses, take advantage of the programs that Katie and Melinda have. They really do help, and there's a lot of opportunity. I tell people that COVID, the deck has been completely shuffled. And with that is going to require an immense amount of training. I mean, I'm seeing it just now going back to restaurants, and the level of service has dropped by like 30%. So first and foremost, I think our biggest challenge is going to be training our people. Now, in my industry, we're in the live event industry, really in the conference and seminar space. And what we do is bring conferences online. And so I'm actually been working on this for, over 30 years of techniques to bring conferences online. So for me, COVID actually, was an enormous shift of the whole mentality. The world all went online within a week. And so for Digitel, we actually saw a tsunami of opportunity of all of these organizations that needed to bring their conferences online. The sad part is everyone that's in my industry in the live events immediately lost their jobs. So we had to pivot all of our production to a virtual, where we produce these events just like we're doing today. We use Zoom, very similar, but then we use some techniques to present a more sponsored and branded approach, but it's the same thing as Zoom. And we're doing this for a lot of medical organizations, research, finance, and delivering national conferences. So we immediately had to move our production from our studios here in Jamestown to remote. And I started to try to hire people in April after we laid everybody off in March because we didn't know. And then the world shifted to online. And when we started to hire people, we started hiring locals and putting them through an extensive training program. And we created a 3-week training program to bring the skill level up to where they could service our clients. And so we've been growing. We've grown about 100 to 125 employees in the last 8 months. We're still hiring to some degree, but now our challenge is we can't get equipment. So video cards are very, very hard to find. And every person that I hire needs an entire suite of technology to produce the event. And we're now limiting our ability to hire based on what equipment we can actually get into place. The other challenge that I'm having right now is that the workforce that I've hired is now starting to go back to live events. So every week we have 2 or 3 people, thanks for the opportunity, but my previous employer has called me back. So again, it's all this shuffling of the deck that's creating a lot of stress on the workforce, but it's creating a lot of opportunity to streamline. And I mean, I'm amazed at how well we're working remotely and how well Jamestown's and Chautauqua County's infrastructure is holding for my employees. I mean, I'm delivering events all over the world from Mayville and Faulkner. And I mean, it's really, really exciting things that are going on. And so we're continuing to hire and train. We are looking for, how to get more equipment, and that's going to be a problem. So we're already looking at how to allocate the equipment we have and maybe reshape some of it. But we really are looking at this opportunity as a great chance to grow. And, I appreciate the workings of our local government in that, because they certainly are there to support. And the PPP plan was just essential for me. So, and it really gave us the ability to expand our capabilities and deliver the services that we deliver nationwide now.
Jim, are there some specific strategies you've used to try to find workforce? You pulled some, people back into the workforce that you had to furlough for a period of time. That helped meet some of the demand, but as I recall, at one point you're looking for about 100 people over and above that. What strategies did you find effective in terms of finding people? And I think in some cases you've got folks working remotely in other places of the state and maybe other places in the nation. So if you could speak to that, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm a big believer about passion. So I can train you if you have passion, and if so I really focus on the people skills. And when we look for personalities that hold their head up and look you in the eye and represent what we represent at Digitel. and then put them through a vigorous training. Of course, they need to have certain skills like, you know, technology. I mean, I'm a technology company, but most of these younger professionals are so technologically savvy and so capable of multitasking, that those are really the skills that we need and the youth have. So it's really more just they working on their presentation skills and being able to stand in front of a group and communicate effectively. And then that's where I start. And then we start looking at, are you more of a people person that you're going to talk to customer service, or a technology-based person that'll have a headset on and talking behind the scenes? And we kind of move them down the pathway. Interns, I use interns all the time. I think internships are a phenomenal way of trying youth out, but their perspective is so important. So every intern that comes through, I tell them, I want to hear what you think of what we do, and I will provide you with an opportunity for just hearing your perspective. So we have a lot of interns, and it's been working well.
Where do you tend to find your employees? If you need to recruit new employees, are there some strategies, or is there targeting you do? What's your methodology there?
I go to the colleges first. I go to the workforce, bureau if I can use that type of skill. It's a challenge there in the sense that we need kind of the technology level, which is the JCC, SUNY, and then Jamestown High School has a phenomenal video program where they incorporated video into all of their learning. So that has immensely helped me. The Jackson Center, there's places around that are using video effectively, and all of the students and the people that touch that. I mean, JCC has an amazing media program. SUNY Fredonia, you're in their media arts. So that's where I start. Sometimes I go over to Erie Institute of Technology for some of the programming, but it's hard, truthfully, in this area to find technology people. But now that we're hiring remote, the higher level programmers, I'm sort of hiring nationwide, and then the technology people I'm hiring local.
Thank you, Jim. So let's move to Dale. Dale and Producto have done a lot of interesting things and have built a network of contacts. So Dale, let's talk about that a little bit, but talk a little bit first about your business and some of the opportunities at Producto.
Morning, everybody. Thank you. And Producto has worked closely with people like Katie Geis, and workforce readiness. Workforce development has also been another area. We are strategically aligned with the P-TECH program out of Dunkirk. We're also working on curriculum and curriculum development with Jamestown Community College. We've been working with the BMW Group, Buffalo Manufacturing Works in Buffalo, New York. And also I've been intimately involved on multiple boards to help influence both curriculum and content. At the same time, I'm trying to advocate for my company. As Jim stated, this has been a really challenging time to run a business. I first had identified 30 people that were aging out, and we had a large number of our employees retired early. So when the pandemic hit, we got a twofold impact. Our business expanded. We manufacture high precision tooling that's used in COVID testing, medical delivery, and also a number of other industries that have really demanded more product from us. So I had two things going on: an aging workforce that decided they didn't want to work in a pandemic. So I lost 8 people with almost 300 years of service. So that was the first gut punch. The second thing we dealt with then is a workforce shortage and skilled trade. In our case, we do machining and high precision machining. it really limited our ability to then go fill those 8 positions, plus we needed growth positions. So we had 18 people we needed almost immediately. So calling people like Katie, calling people like JCC, and then working with P-TECH were our first strategies. We have been able to bring people in, but once again, skill depleted. And I mean that with all respect, but they're skill depleted in the skills we needed. So we had to then business partner with JCC and other service providers, factory related, to get those people trained up as quickly as possible to make them productive. So we look at the landscape today, and it's a very challenging landscape when you look at companies like ours. We still have 10 open positions because, as Jim said, we've lost a few people to other neighboring areas that are willing to pay more money than we can sustain in wages. So that too has been problematic for us because we didn't expect some of our best people to leave to go work in a neighboring city because it was a better opportunity for them. So what are we doing? Every day we advocate not just for Ring Precision, but for everybody in this community. We're all in it together. So that's why I sit down 2 weeks ago with you, Todd, and 11 local CEOs to try to figure out what is the best method to resolve the labor shortage that we're all experiencing. So we've been embracing Katie and her group. We've been embracing service providers once again, so we can get people to our facilities successfully. And then the other thing we know we have to do is we're bringing in media groups that are allowing us to train our people because the equipment we purchase comes from all over the world. So we need to have Zooms from probably Japan to Switzerland to Germany. And this is how our training is being done now. It's virtualized. So it's been tough. We're getting through it. We're still sustaining our objectives of profitability, working closely with our people. And for the most part, I think everybody's been very resilient. Like Jim said, we've been fortunate. We just upgraded our fiber once again at this building to allow us to communicate around the world. And this is one of our biggest challenges. We are a global manufacturer. We ship to Israel, China, Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, and all through the United States on a daily basis. And our ability to communicate at all levels is paramount. So we're doing okay. My HR manager is Shirley afraid because she's being challenged with trying to find people in this very difficult marketplace. We're interviewing a lot of folks, and unfortunately, we're seeing things we've never seen before. People are not showing up for the interview. After we offer somebody a job and they accept it, first day of employment, they don't show up. So we're seeing some unprecedented times. We're working through it as a collective group. I appreciate the feedback from everybody, and collectively, I think we all have to embrace this and figure out what's the best method to train, because as Jim said, this is all about training. And we need the support. We need the support from workforce development. We need support from the local colleges. And I think we all have to figure out how to share resources because we can't do it alone. Small companies of 100 employees like ours, we're dedicating so much of our time to training that it's at the end of the day, we still have a business to run. And that's why we need resources like Katie offers to continue to educate and edify us so we understand what our opportunities are and then how can we leverage those in a manner to allow us to run the company and train up our people. So that's really what we're seeing day in and day out. We do run our building 24 hours a day, so that too adds some other challenges because we need people here 24 hours a day, 6 days a week, and then managing that night shift is sometimes problematic. So we're fully flexible. We're allowing people to work odd shifts that work for them and their families, and at the same time, we're investing heavily in the people that work here every day. So that's really what Ring Precision's doing. And I think we're all going to have to work through it together.
Dale, if you had, top three recommendations to the businesses out there in terms of, getting folks in the door to, to have a discussion about jobs at Producto, what would you define as your kind of your top three successful strategies or tactics?
Number one, social media. Your platform there has to accommodate the new employee. Nobody. We have a multiple pronged approach, but what we find is we're harvesting more applications through social media than we would be from traditional outlets. We've tried papers, we've tried penny savers, we've tried a lot of different printed media, and we're finding that is less successful and also very expensive. So our next initiative is investing heavily in the different social media platforms to get the message out there. Number two, I think you got to stay aligned with people like Katie Geis and the Workforce Development Group, because there's a lot of tools there that are available. And I don't want to use the word ignorance, but for some of us that are fully engaged in running companies, you're not always aware, as Katie brought up, some of the different initiatives, or Melinda brought up. These are tools that are available to us, and we have to use them. The third thing I think is network. So venues like this that give you an opportunity to see what your peers are doing are also opportunities for you to then adapt and adopt best practice. And I think this is where some of our networking events, chamber-led, mass-led, give us an opportunity to not only hear what our peers are doing, but also learn what best practice is. So to be very more specific, I think we all have to determine what's going to get that person to come and apply at our facility. What differentiates us? What makes us unique? And I think the challenge for us, and we dealt with this years ago, our facility is very, very clean. Our facility is very neat. So now what we've done is reached out to all the school systems. We're trying to get like the P-TECH kids into our building at a younger age. And the initiative that Katie talked about is, testing out the youth. So currently today, we have 3 UB engineering interns in our building, and we're investing heavily in them and the curriculum. So we're strategically aligning ourselves with that school, because that's going to be a feeder for us to bring in that next engineer. And then with P-TECH, we currently have 3 P-TECH interns here, and then we're going to support them right through their college commitments, both financially and giving them flexible hours that'll allow them to come back and forth to the company. So that will accommodate them and allow them to make a good living wage. And at the same time, this is what we're doing as we get more involved. I will be guest speaking today at P-TECH. Because that's where our future is going to come from. And so from my perspective, it's a big commitment from our company. As Jim knows, we have to put a lot of our time into marketing our companies, and those would probably be the areas. It's a multiple pronged approach. We have to reach out in many ways to try to get our name out there, try to get in front of the right people. But the responsibility from the company, you got to have a really nice facility, you got to pay living wages, and the benefits side are also imperative. So we're trying to do everything the right way, but it is very challenging.
Thanks, Deb. Jim, I want to come back to you with the same question and move to Katie. Your top 3 strategy or tactics in terms of recruitment.
I think this is going to be a great equalizer, and we're going to need to provide work environment, like Dale just said, for these employees that meet their needs. So flexibility, to me, I think the 9 to 5 is gone. As far as I'm concerned, if you get the job done that you're supposed to get done, you can do it and whenever you want it. Everyone's working from home. It's very difficult. I can't even imagine being a single mom and trying to work and take care of children. And so we're being much more flexible. I think this is also an awesome time for companies to rethink the way they do everything. And don't just say we can't do it that way. I mean, I literally, when my VP of IT came into my office and said, the governor just said we need to leave the office, we need to go remote. I went, we can't go remote. We have studios. How can you go remote? So, I mean, my age, you got to kind of hand it to some of these younger who know the environment better and allow them to start making some decisions. So I would say, you're going to need to really invest, like Dale said, invest in your people and then let them really give you the input and the knowledge that they have. Because at 60, I thought what we just went through was impossible. And it was amazing what we were able to achieve. And so I would say flexibility. I would say benefits. I mean, the benefit package at Digitel is some of the best, and my employees appreciate that because, and when you invest in them, they invest in you. That's the first step. And then our company runs on family first. And I think that these are challenging times. So we cross train so that if somebody has to leave for a family emergency, somebody can step right in. So I'm thinking about that. I've been doing that though for 35 years, family first. And I think those are the things that are going to bring people to work at your company. And our turnover rate is negligible.
Thanks, Jim. Katie, do you have anything to add? Maybe, some tactics employers can be thinking about to help with recruitment and retention?
Absolutely. And, one of the reasons that Dale and Jim are two great businessmen to have on this is because they have both made a choice to be a part of the solution in their individual ways. They're truly investing in their employees and in their workplaces. And one of the things that I was going to highlight that you can do is really look at your workplace culture. How can you make your workplace culture a great place to work? And then how do you market that? And there's a lot of different ways to do that. You can, do a TikTok video, do an Instagram video. I mean, those are some of the newer social media platforms that a lot of younger people are on. Dale didn't talk about this, but I mean, the investment that they made in their break room is incredible. They have a beautiful break room where anybody would love to, be able to walk into and say, my company did this for me so that I'm really comfortable and they care about me. They care about, that I'm in a nice environment. I don't know if Dale still does it, but I know for a little while, probably maybe he took a hiatus during COVID, but he would go in and cook for all of the employees. He would do, hot dogs on the grill and, so work picnics. I know Jim does some really unique things with his employees, whether they're in-house or now virtual, so that he's always connecting with them and, maintaining that rapport so that they understand how important they are to the work. They aren't just the work, they're important to the work, they're important to the company. So, figuring out how to really market your workplace culture once you've, made whatever changes you want to make to your workplace culture, or maybe you already feel like you really have that real high quality workplace culture. So market that, really sell your jobs, your company. Talk about how you have made your workplace a safe and healthy one following COVID-19, guidelines. What have you done as a company to ensure that your workplace is the safest and healthiest that it possibly can, not just for that worker, but for their families and for the community as a whole? Because that's really why you did what you did. It wasn't just because you were told you had to, but it was really because you care about people. You don't want your workers to get sick. You don't want anybody in their families to get sick. And so really talk about that. Make sure that you're highlighting that you're marketing those things, because that's important to people. Those are the things that job seekers are telling us they're afraid of. And, they want to hear, and we're encouraging them to ask questions about your COVID-19 plans. What have you done to make your workplaces safe and healthy? Offer them, Dale was just talking about this, offer them a tour of your facility. Make that part of the interview process. Have one of your current employees talk with them, meet with them, answer their questions about what it's like to work here. Why do you work here? Set up a mentoring program so that every new employee is being mentored by a current employee. And that's not necessarily for how to actually do the work, but more, what is the workplace culture? How am I more a part of the team? How am I going to feel really welcomed and comfortable walking in here? Something new that I've been hearing that a lot of companies are doing is an employee referral bonus program. So have your current employees think about friends, relatives, neighbors, people that they know that they think would be a good fit for the company. Nobody knows better what it's like to work for a company than the people that are working there. And if you make it some sort of an incentive or bonus program, you put a little money behind it, it can be set up something like this. It doesn't have to be this, but maybe the person they referred after the interview, if you hire them and they get the job, they get a $500 incentive. If that person now completes 90 days, so 3 months on the job, they get an additional $500 for referring them. And if they make it to completing a full year, they get a final $500 bonus. What it's going to do is, first of all, incentivize your employees to really think about, who do I want to work with? Who's like me? Who's a good worker like me? They're only going to refer people that they want to spend, their shift with, and that they think is going to, stay and be a good worker. And then also they're going to continue to work with that person. So if the person's struggling a little bit, they're going to say, oh, no, let's talk about it. Let me help you. Let me work with you. I'm sure that you'll find that you will get some really strong candidates that way. And the last thing, it's probably one of the toughest ones because, it's the money piece, and, Jim and Dale both touched on it, and really competitive wages, but also not just focusing on the hourly wage, but looking at your benefits package. Everything. If you contribute to a retirement fund, whether it's a 401k or an IRA, the healthcare benefits, the time off, and try to put that into an hourly dollar amount. So what per hour additional beyond just that hourly wage or that salary is this individual getting? And that speaks volumes. That really helps somebody understand the value of all of the investments that you're making in them as an employee. And I think I touched on the other ones already. So those are just some tangible things to try. I know Melinda heard recently about a really interesting one about sharing employees. So I don't know if you wanted to touch on that, Melinda.
Yeah, sure. And just to add to the salary piece, companies are always so resistant to posting what the salary range is. People want to know. They want to know if it's worth their time to apply. And so I really encourage, again, employers to think differently about posting that, so people know before they apply whether or not it's something that they actually can live off of and something that they'd be really actually interested in participating in, because they do compare and contrast.
Melinda, a real quick note on that. And also it saves you time, so you're not interviewing people and then there's a big gap in expectations. So we've found posting the range much more effective as well.
That's great. Thanks, Jim. I always appreciate when employers validate the things that we hear on the ground, right? But it was, as Katie was sharing, one of the things that we heard recently coming out of it was Wisconsin or Ohio, they're doing a work share. So for some advanced manufacturers in particular, they're sort of sharing employees when they can't provide a full-time job or full-time opportunity, and finding a way to sort of have them work at two places at once, because then they're able to share that skilled labor. Because even in those unemployment numbers or employment numbers, there's a lot of people who are working part-time who don't want to work part-time because they can't quite find a full-time job. And so that definitely takes a leap of faith on the behalf of an employer. But in reality, it's allowing people, especially I'm thinking more about like the hospitality sector, right? We only have a couple of part-time jobs that you can piece together, or you can only give someone a weekend shift. How do you have someone work at a couple of different restaurants and sort of share their expertise so that someone ends up having a full-time job? The last thing I will say, and I think that Dale and Jim sort of mentioned this, the traditional way of recruiting, it doesn't work like it used to. It's not as effective. It doesn't work. Often people are spending lots of money on staffing agencies or lots of money on advertising in forms or formats that people just don't use. Katie's services are free. They're totally free. So you can go and work with Katie and she will market the heck out of you. And it's completely free for your company. But then also using those cost savings to do a reinvest in your workers, reinvest in, having a awesome common area that people can hang out in. Again, those are the things that I think are going to be the difference maker. And ultimately, you'll find out if it's working because you'll have really low turnover rates, like Jim was saying. If it's negligible, you're saving money every quarter, every year, if you're able to keep your people. The best marketing you have are the people who work for you. Because what you want is a young kid who came out of high school or the P-Tech program to be like, dude, you should see this great job I have. I work for Digitel. It's amazing. I can work from home. I jump in the pool halfway through the day if I'm hot and come back in and finish my shift, right? Like that's what you want. You want your people to market your company for you. And so I'll stop there and say that, the world has changed, and if we don't change with it, we're going to be stuck. So this is the real time and real opportunity to make a huge difference and make sure that our businesses in the Southern Tier and in Chautauqua County can continue to thrive.
Great.
I just want to add one thing real quick, Todd. Being willing to accept applications in a multiple different ways. Like if right now you're just accepting them online, consider accepting paper ones as well. We can actually do that for you. We can accept them in our office and then get them to you so that you're not having to manage that. Because some people really struggle with online services. Some people don't have access to the internet at their homes still, believe it or not. Jim and I were talking about that before we came on live. So think about being as flexible as you can in your hiring process, and also where you can reduce, decrease the total number of requirements that someone has to meet to be qualified, the better it is for you because you're going to get a much larger pool. The less, if you have that ability. Obviously, if they need a certain certification or a certain degree, that's a different story. But anywhere that you can say, hey, you know what, I will take a chance on you simply because I think you seem like you're going to be a good worker and a good fit for our culture. Be willing to do that.
Thank you. A lot of really great tips and insights into strategies for recruitment and retention. This has been a great discussion. For those who are trying to take notes but maybe didn't capture everything, we'll archive this video on our website so you can scan through it and pull back or pull out some of those key points that were made. This is very, very helpful discussion. I think helpful for our employers. Some great topics and some great recommendations. Anybody else have anything else you want to share before we wind this down? Katie?
I want to jump on my being part of the solution. So all of our businesses, we're counting on you to help us be part of the solution. And there's some ways at the federal level that you can help us. We can all advocate for workforce funding that can be dedicated to on-the-job trainings and trainings. So it's not for more staff. That's not what I'm trying to do. But it's funding that can go right into your doors and help you. But where it's really critical is not just the amount of funding, but flexible funding, so that we don't get funding that a candidate has to fit a certain criteria. It should be able to be for anybody that a business wants to hire. So when I advocate for flexible funding, that's what I'm advocating for, and I need all of you to help me advocate for that and say, yes, I want to be able to access funding regardless of who it is that I choose to hire. And the other piece that I would love your help advocating for is a return to work incentive that is paid to individuals on unemployment insurance out of unemployment insurance funds. We want to incentivize people to go back to work. And I think that could be something that having the business voice behind could be huge and be really, really helpful to us. And that's my final.
Very good. So we got a lot of opportunity to do some advocacy to help the workforce investment boards get the resources they need, but have the flexibility to use them as employers' needs come up. And that's been a long time challenge. Appreciate, Katie, you continue to work on that and advocate for those changes. So again, thank you, everybody. We're gonna get wrapped up here. Again, thank you to our panelists and our sponsors. We ask that you stay safe. If you're not vaccinated, we encourage you to do so. We still have some work to do here in the Southern Tier in terms of getting more folks vaccinated. So if you have friends, family, neighbors who have not been vaccinated, please have a conversation with them. Encourage them that, it's about their health, it's about their family's health, it's about the health of our community, and in maybe more selfish perspective from the business community perspective, it's really in large part about the health of our economy and certainly the health of our nation. So, if you haven't gotten your shot yet, please do so. And, please encourage your friends, neighbors, and family members to do so as well. We appreciate your time here, your continued investment in the Chamber of Commerce, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.
Thanks,
Thank
Todd.
you.
Thank you.